Hello,
Hello.
everybody. Hi, it's Trisha Lee, and I am here live in, where am I? Walnut Creek, Ohio, just outside of Millersburg. I am here attending a training session where I am learning how to hitch and drive a team of horses with the Amish. So today was my first day, and I got to hitch up Bill and Barney, and then I got to hitch up a couple of mules, George and Jane. So anyway, that's not our topic for today. Today we are talking about, I'm joined by my business partner, Larry Lieber. Together we operate recycle company, and also we have some disruptive technology that we're developing with our corporation, King Sunshine Solar Systems. And you can check out the project that we're working at www.kingsss.ca. And so we started this hangout to provide a platform for other people that are involved with disruptive technologies that are interested in helping us and being helped by us to develop new technology and bring products that solve problems to the market. And so today we're talking about not so much a product, but more of a service that is disruptive technology, new to the marketplace, and is especially useful for electric cars. So we're going to be talking about the charging stations that are out there and the role that we would like to play in the future development of these stations all over the globe. Right now, there's very few of these charging stations because there's not a lot of electric cars on the road at the moment. However, that is ever changing, and as more and more of these electric cars are implemented on our roadways, there will be more and more demand for charging stations that we're going to be talking about today. And so it's a completely different business model than the gas or petrol stations that we frequent currently, well, most of us. I'm in Amish country right now, so there's a bunch of people that ride around with horse and buggy, and they have no need to stop at the petrol station unless they want to drink, I guess. So it's quite fascinating being here. Everywhere that you go, except for the gas stations, they have these hitching posts where people tie their horses while they go in to do their shopping or get their teeth worked on, or yeah, it's quite amusing. Like every parking lot pretty much has a hitching post, and beside the hitching post is piles of manure. So that's a really, really old way of doing things. We're revolutionary new way of servicing the vehicles that we use. So um, I'm having a little bit of issues out here with my internet. And just in the hotel lobby, it seems a little bit better than in the suite. Uh, I I had wanted to do this hangout at an earlier time. That didn't really work out because yeah, I was having a lot of trouble with the internet. So hopefully it's going to be a little more reliable down here in the lobby. So I'll send it over to you, Larry, because I know that you have a lot more to say on this disruptive technology, and you know quite a bit more about it, because Larry has actually been looking to be the owner or an operator of an electric car for pretty much as long as I've known him. He's talked about wanting to upgrade to an electric car. And so he's studied it quite a bit and done quite a bit of research on what the requirements are. And in his research, he has discovered these charging stations. And so he has a unique perspective on it and quite a bit of information to share with us tonight. So I'll hand it over to you, Larry. Take it away.
Sure. Hey, did I was just wondering if you happen to make it by the Der Dutchman Amish cooking or Amish kitchen cooking,
How do you know about that?
because I Googled it.
Oh, yeah,
Good
I
to go.
drove by there and I actually stopped and took some pictures because there's an amazing view from their parking lot, but I didn't go inside to eat yet. So I'm getting free food at the training. Really, really good. I had chicken and mashed potatoes and dessert and all that at the from the gentleman, the Amish fellow, Alvin, that is teaching me how to drive a team of horses. His wife, Katie, has been cooking for me, so I'm kind of spoiled. But yeah, I think I might try the Dutchman restaurant before I leave because yeah, it was jam packed. I didn't even think about going in there because when I went in the parking lot, I had to park at the very, very back, and then I just got out and took some pictures because there's an amazing view from their
Okay.
parking lot. But it must be good because I'm telling you that parking lot was full, and I've seen all kinds of other restaurants and cafes, and their parking lots were pretty sparsely populated. So I'm thinking it's probably the best thing going around here because yeah, it was jammed, and it's a small community. So yeah, it's got to be good if that many people are trucking over here to check it out. So I'll have to go over there and maybe grab a bite tomorrow night or something. If I don't fill up too much on Katie's good home cooking. But anyway, back to the topic at hand and the role that our company wants to play in these electric car charging stations. And you were going to, I believe, do a little bit of a comparison between the fueling stations that we currently use for gasoline and diesel as compared to how these charging stations will operate in they do operate now, and the future ones that will be implemented will be operating.
That's right. The well, basically, as we usually talk about charging stations or cars, it always seems to focus around the Tesla Motors company because they seem to be really going hard at getting their cars to the market. Probably the hardest out of all the company manufacturers that I've been looking into. They seem to be very dynamic, and the moves that they're making business wise, well, basically, they're setting up super charging stations in China right now, and that's basically just started happening over the past few weeks. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla Motors, has met with the CEO of Han Energy in China. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Well, excuse me, they both are, they're not, they're, I think they're both probably in their 40s or 50s, or these two guys. And they have really similar, you can just tell by their companies that they're involved with that they have similar visions for the future of motorized vehicles. And so that's why I thought this Google idea or this Hangout would be a good idea to talk about um, the applications and the opportunities of these new charging stations for electric vehicles. Now, I think when a lot of people hear charging stations for electric vehicle, their mind is automatically going to go towards something where you plug in that's part of your house and it's fed from the grid or from your power meter in your home. Well, the really cool thing about these um, power stations that they're setting up for these cars is that they're powered by the sun, and that's where they receive all their energy. So they can set these power start stations or charging stations. I think they call them supercharging stations. They can set them up wherever they want. Now, a little bit of history on Han Energy out of China is they recently bought up a couple of forerunners in the flexible solar film industry, the CIGS film industry. It's a type of chemical structure for building these flexible solar panels. And so they have bought up a German company and an American company recently and started combining all this technology together. And so I think what they're really working towards is coming up with something that's just going to be really, really hot as far as being able to charge your vehicle anywhere. Until, of course, we get the King Sunshine Systems equipment on the market, and then everything else is going to change again. But for now, they're working with solar panels, which are okay. But the difference that we're going to be seeing here in the future, and possibly, I think it's happening right now, but really on a smaller scale, is that you can drive your Tesla Motors car or any other make or model of electric vehicle, excuse me, and you can drive as far as you want, and then when you're getting low on power, you pull into one of these supercharging stations, and they pretty much charge up your vehicle in about half an hour. So I think this opens up a whole bunch of opportunities now for entrepreneurs as well, because we know with the way these are two billionaires I'm talking about with the Tesla Motors and with Han Energy. These guys have lots of money. And so whenever you have that situation happening, that's, in my opinion, where the technology is going to go. That's where the future is going to be. So we're looking at, the city of Detroit declaring bankruptcy. Well, that doesn't mean a lot for the gas-powered vehicle industry, so it's just not a really good sign. However, with the way we're going, the technology with electric vehicles, we're going to start seeing a lot more of electric vehicles on the road. Why? Because you don't have to pay for gas. You get your electric vehicle charged up for nothing, and then you're back on the road. And that's what's going on right now. So I think when you look at the gas service station they usually have convenience stores now attached to them, like Max or 7-Elevens, or even Esso has Tim Hortons in Canada hooked up to their gas station. So when we think of gas stations, I don't think up in Canada we really think of fuel pumps, because there's so much more now, because they've added the convenience store. And I think that's a really good idea, because I'm not a prophet, but I can predict that that's where things are going to be going with the solar charging stations. If it takes you half an hour to charge up your vehicle, you're going to want to be able to do stuff at that service station. So whatever people can dream of for activities for people to do things in half an hour, it could be a lot of things. Like you can, I don't know, have massage or
they'll have to have Wi-Fi.
They definitely will have Wi-Fi, guaranteed.
And also, I just wanted to interrupt and point out that right now these charging stations are free, but isn't that just kind of because it's like in a testing phase? Like surely they're going to monetize, because they have to at some point pay for that electricity that's going into these cars. So at some point they will have to monetize that, won't they? And then also, you were mentioning how the gas stations in Canada are connected to Tim Hortons. Here in Ohio, I noticed that almost every gas station that I've been to has a Subway attached to it. So yeah, these franchises kind of glom onto but yeah, won't they in the future? Won't they have to somehow monetize the charging, because that electricity is not free? Like even if it comes from solar power, wind power, there's still a cost from the source, right? So they will eventually have to charge for it. And I know you had
well, with the gas stations, it would have been magical if all they had to do was install the pumps and the pumps went into the ground and tapped into this giant reservoir of gasoline. So they never had to fill up the reservoir of gasoline. So you just pull up, and wherever you filled up your car, there was a giant, huge reservoir of gas underneath the soil of where you were. Uh, that unfortunately isn't the situation with gas. With gas, they have to service those pumps and bring in fuel and fill up the tank. With solar power, there's no reason to do that. The only thing that will happen.
No. But there's still a cost to putting up those solar panels or whatever they're using for charging. It's not free. There's no, I think you're misleading people by telling people that, oh, when you drive an electric car, you're never going to have to pay anything for the energy that it takes to propel that car down the highway. I just don't see that as viable.
Well, like I said, I actually didn't get to this point, but the comparison I was making between the gas station and the solar station is the sun is constantly providing the energy or the fuel for the solar electric charging station, whereas with the gas station, they constantly have to bring in truckloads of gasoline to fill up tanks under the ground. Now, if you eliminate that cost of a service station, we'll just call them service stations, electric and gasoline. If you eliminate that cost of having to bring in this fuel that has been processed at a refinery and then trucked in and then pumped into the ground to fill up the tanks, you're going to essentially eliminate that cost. So what cost are you going to be left with a solar power charging station? You're going to be left with the cost of the, like you say, the original startup cost of having the solar panels or whatever solar technology is available for creating electricity, and then you'll have the cost of the batteries for storing the energy underground. Now, we're not looking at a really huge cost here in comparison to refining bitumen into gasoline for automotive and then shipping it to all these gas stations. It's a huge infrastructure for the gasoline service station, but for a solar powered service station, if there is a charge eventually, it'll probably be I don't even want to think about it because I'm not trying to be unrealistic about things, but the cost of the pumps in a gas station and the cost of the solar power panels, those are your two fixed asset, fixed costs.
Well, no doubt it will be much less expensive than using gasoline. However, I'm sure there's going to be maintenance required. And yeah, I think it's misleading to tell people that, oh, if you get an electric car, you're going to be able to drive around for free for life. Definitely, there'll be huge savings. And for me, what's more important than saving money on fuel is the fact that there isn't a tailpipe that's spewing poison into the air behind me everywhere that I drive. So that's the main appeal to me. However, I definitely see how it would be a reduced cost to operate these electric cars and use these charging stations, but I'm sure there's going to be maintenance and other issues. So I think it is misleading to say that it's going to be free, but definitely reduced cost is the main attraction for most people.
I think you really have to use your imagination on this, because if you can imagine gas-powered vehicles running on, say, air and water instead of gasoline and oil, it would be pretty. It's really hard to let your imagination accept what is really occurring. I think when we look at moving from gas-burning vehicles to electric-powered vehicles, we're talking about changing the infrastructure of transportation. And what's the big whoop if there's no charge to fueling up your vehicle? There's other ways to make money, and I think that could be one of the big problems with why electric vehicles are having such a hard time breaking through to the market. there's a huge infrastructure for refining gasoline into gas and oil, shipping those products all over the world, the cost of the shipping from the oil refineries. So there's that infrastructure there. And the people that control that infrastructure, they don't want to see these solar power charging stations unless they
Well,
can somehow make
definitely,
money off of
they're not going to be in any hurry to give up those profits, and they're really profiting on both ends because they are selling their product, gasoline or bitumen or whatever it may be, and then in order to transport the product, they're also using the product, so they're kind of profiting on both ends. And so, yeah, it's going to be quite interesting and quite challenging to see what these companies come up with in order to keep that market share and continue their profitability. And I think any of the oil and gas companies out there that are smart are going to quickly adapt to this changing marketplace. And just to point out to people that we don't really want to slag on the oil and gas industry too much, especially the oil end of it. I'm a big fan of plastics, and many petroleum products serve super useful purpose in my life, especially plastic. And the thing I love about plastic is that it can be recycled over and over again, made into new products, kind of on an endless cycle. Our issue is with the burning of oil and gas, because once you light it on fire, first of all, it's gone forever. You can't use it again. And second of all, it's poison. And so definitely we'd like to keep a healthy oil industry going without having to, what I feel is, abuse the resource by burning it and losing it forever and creating pollution. There's a much more responsible and better way to use that resource in my mind. So just to put that out there, because I know that some people may watch this and be like, oh, they're just trying to, kill the oil and gas industry. And I know a lot of people, especially where home is in Alberta, Canada, that's their livelihood comes from that. So I just want to point out that we're not completely against using the resource. We just don't want to see it abused. And so I feel that electric cars would play a major role in solving the problem of air pollution, and also in helping us to be more responsible with that resource, particularly the oil resource. Oh, hi, Brian. Can you hear us? Oh, it looks like Brian joined,
Yeah.
but I don't know if he can hear us or not. Larry, can you hear me? Oh, hi, Brian. Today we're talking about charging stations for electric cars. So go ahead, Larry. You had some more to say about that, I think.
Well, I'm not saying that we want to disrupt the infrastructure for the oil and gas industry either. However, it is a non-renewable resource, and when it's gone, there it's gone. You won't have an infrastructure once it's gone. Eventually, there's no magic fairies underneath the earth that are making fossil fuels for us. It's a limited resource. So eventually, that infrastructure will fall apart because it cannot be sustainable. It's not possible to sustain that. So as I was saying earlier, before we got off on this tangent, if we could imagine being able to fill up your vehicle with some sort of fuel that didn't cost anything to refine, that didn't cost anything to grow, if it was just available as an energy source. For example, it's hard to compare anything to sunlight, but the only thing I could really think of is probably air that would be turned into something like water. Um, so it wouldn't there wouldn't be any cost to create that fuel. So if Henry Ford would have come up with a vehicle that ran on air, I think we'd be all running around in these uh, Ford vehicles or whatever make or model. We would still be running around in these things if they ran on air and produced something like water, something that didn't disturb the environment, which would mean we'd have to have an infrastructure for something completely different. And as human beings, we're one of the only species, I think, on the planet that has the ability of thought, that has the ability of creativity, where we can take something out of absolutely nothing, just an idea, and make something out of it. So it doesn't have to be something based on a fuel or a fossil fuel. It can be based on many things. And so that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make with this difference between the gas station and the solar power station. The point I was trying to make is that with a solar power station, if you have these things out there where you have to sit around for half an hour while your vehicle gets charged up, now your time is money, and a lot of people don't want to be sitting around on their duff for half an hour while their vehicle gets charged up. So now I think what you were talking about with the infrastructure, I think everybody's going to have to really focus on, as electric vehicles enter the marketplace in a greater amount, they're going to have to figure out, or people are going to have to think and develop faster charging stations where you can charge your vehicle instead of half an hour, maybe 20 minutes. And so what will happen in that case? Well, will be similar to the old service stations where you actually got service when you went to your gas station. And you see, it's been a constantly evolving thing. The main thing people go to the gas station for now is to get gasoline and probably or maybe a coffee and then get on the road. They're in such a rush that now people, they don't have a serviceman coming up to check the oil, to fill up your vehicle, and off you go. It's gotten to the point where people pull up and they want to pump their own fuel themselves because they feel they can do it faster, which they probably can. So all this is part of the infrastructure of the hydrocarbon or fossil fuel burning vehicle system and infrastructure. This will probably carry over to electric vehicles. For example, if it's going to take half an hour for you to fill up or to power up or charge up your vehicle, maybe you'll have different lanes at that solar charging station. So if you're only half empty, if your charge is only half empty, maybe there's a different charger you can go to and charge up in 10 minutes. If your battery's completely dead, maybe you're going to have to park for half an hour and fully charge your battery. Maybe for some vehicle types, and I'm pretty sure I don't know if this thing exists. I've been told it does exist. Maybe there's a lane where you pull up your vehicle and an advanced robotics system pops the battery out of your vehicle, pops a new battery into your vehicle, and off you go in less than 60 seconds. All these are possible infrastructures for this new electric vehicle industry. And I don't think a lot of people are starting to think this way yet because it's all very new. However, we are all going to want to get around one way or another by a vehicle, whether it's a gas-powered vehicle or an electric vehicle. However, I think the opportunities of using solar power to get around rather than drying up our fossil fuel supply, it's just a smarter option. And
I'm glad you brought up the concept of interchangeable batteries where you take your dead battery and replace it with a new battery. So I really am a firm believer that that is the key to having this electric car technology catch on, because I really, really do not believe that it's a very small minority of people that will be willing to park their car and let it charge for half an hour on any journey that they're taking, whether it's their commute to work or they're traveling cross country or anything like that. People are just, in this busy world, people are not willing to wait.
Well,
So
there'll be a lot of people that are late for work.
If what you're talking about is possible, where they can take the dead battery and replace it with a fresh battery in like 5 or 10 minutes, then yeah, people will be willing to take on these electric cars. But if that's not the case, then that's going to be a big issue. I know that they've come a really long way in the distance traveled, and that used to be the main stumbling block for the technology, was that people were like, well, I can only go X amount of kilometers. What if I want to go further? They want to go a longer distance on a single charge. But also, I guarantee you that people are not going to want to sit around for half hour. It doesn't matter if they have massages. It doesn't matter if they have, like, amusement park rides at the charging station. People are not going to want to take that time out of their day to wait for their vehicle to charge. They're just not going to do it. And then something else I wanted to bring up quickly, because I know that there's probably people out there watching that are, you're talking about the ferries under the ground making more oil and gas for us. There is a theory of abiotic oil, that it is a rejuvenating supply. So just for those people, I just want to point out, if you come to Alberta, Canada, and you go north of where we live, and you look at the labor-intensive development of this oil sand, tar sand resource that we have in Alberta, there is no way that they would be going through all of the rigmarole that they go through to extract that oil from that sand if there was abiotic oil. They just wouldn't do it, because if it was replenishing, if these wells were replenishing themselves and you could just pump oil out of the old wells that were refilling over time, they would not be going through all that trouble. Because if you look at the process that they go through to separate the oil from the sand, it's super labor and machinery and resource intensive, to the point where it's obvious that the resource is in low supply, or they would not be going through all of that to get to it. So just to point that out to all the abiotic oil people out there that believe in the resource replenish, that it is a renewable resource. If you've seen what was going on in northern Alberta, there's a video that used to be on YouTube. I don't know if it's still there, but it's called Petropolis, like Metropolis, but with Petro. Petropolis. You look that up and you look at what they're doing up there. If it was a renewable resource, there would be no reason to go to all that trouble to get at it. So it's obviously diminishing in availability. And yeah, it's really great that there's these new technologies that are coming online to be able to replace that resource, because it is obviously in low supply. And if it's in low supply now, the demand is high, and it's going to just be a dwindling resource in the future.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was all about, but they're fossil fuels are just that. They're fossil fuels were formed by vegetation and dinosaurs and stuff dropping dead and being buried underneath the ground. That's how we got fossil fuels, and that's why they're called fossil fuels. So anybody who's coming up with imaginary myths about fossil fuels being renewable, they should just speak to one of the major oil companies such as Shell, Mobil, or any of the big names. If they want to know the truth about how oil is formed, those are the experts. Don't I think that's more wishful thinking, what you're talking about. And the oil companies are experts. They have no reason to lie. They've been in business for a lot of years, and they know what fossil fuel is. And I also went through school, and they taught us um, where oil comes from, and it's all factual based on
Well,
science.
I wouldn't go so far. I'm a firm believer that all science is theory, and if somebody can prove that, and there has been cases where dried up wells have been replenished with oil. However, I think that that was oil that was already there that just came up to the surface where it was more available. So it's a theory, and I don't want to totally dismiss it, but or however, the evidence shows that, and that's how science works. Science works on evidence. So although someone can come with new evidence and prove a theory to be true or false, I believe all science, even the stuff that we were taught in school, is theoretical and it could be proven wrong. However, like I said, the evidence shows that it is a dwindling resource. So um, it's super inspiring to see companies such as Tesla Motors that are stepping up to the plate and taking advantage of the opportunity to find a better way to have a solution available for the probably likely reality that this resource will become either unavailable or unfeasible in the future. So do you want to segue a little bit into the role that we'd like to play with our disruptive technology in partnering with these charging stations?
Thought you never asked. We have technology that we're bringing to market. By the way, you probably don't. I haven't told you the news, but the switches are on their way. The magic switch is on its way. It should be here shortly. Um, that's just some business stuff that I just letting Trish know because I haven't talked to her today. Um, with regards to King Sunshine Solar Systems, we're bringing new technology to market. Not so much bringing, we at first wanted to bring a product to market, and where we're located, as she says, we're in the middle of the oil patch, and there's not a really big demand for our product. So what we're doing is we're bringing this technology to the world, and it's going to be serious competition for the photovoltaic industry because our preliminary tests show that our equipment puts out 4 times as much power as the best solar panel on the market. This, of course, will be proven by tests that are just coming up. And, of course, we're going to make that information possible for everyone else to find out for themselves that we're not blowing smoke up their skirts when we say what we're saying, that we're going to make the technology available to countries that want to use it. What we're going to be doing is wanting to provide these supercharging stations for the electric vehicle industry because in my from my experience through the years, I think that a big draw on electricity is for industry, of course, for households, and now with the vehicles going from burning fuel to battery power, I think this is going to soon, transportation will soon become the biggest user of solar energy. And so I believe that the solar charging stations are going to be a huge part of what we do, replacing, they'll probably, you're not going to get rid of people that, unless you make it illegal to burn gas in a vehicle, most people that want to put gasoline in a vehicle will be allowed to do so, except it's going to be probably really expensive to do that because I think the shift, the culture shift we're going to see in lifestyle changes, we're going to see it with our own eyes over the next 10 years. Things are already starting to happen in so many different areas regarding using electric and solar powered electric for transportation. It's happening already. It just hasn't made it to the public eye yet. Some of the other things that we have planned, I think this might be what you're in reference to, is providing all different types of transportation for by using our technology. So our technology is they call it CCHP technology now, combined cooling, heat, and power. So it gives you the best of all worlds, because you'd be able to create cooling, heat, as well as electricity using the King Sunshine Solar Systems technology. Now, how that fits in with this this hangout is definitely along the lines of solar charging stations for vehicles. Uh, I think it'll make a lot more sense to have something that's very powerful using the sun to charge these vehicles. So that's probably going to be one of the very first markets. We've approached these companies already. We just started approaching some of the companies because we're very close to final testing stage with our equipment. So Han Energy and Tesla Motors, we've let them know what we're doing already. They haven't really noticed yet because we're still in the testing stage. I think once we've completed that and we show them the results of our tests, they're probably going to drop whatever they're carrying and come over to our camp, and we'll have a little bit of a powwow and get some things going with our technology. I think that's what you're referring to, right? Hello?
Yeah, I look forward to being able to provide power wherever it's needed with this technology, because it's pretty special in my mind. It's doing something that I haven't really seen done anywhere else. So, yeah, I'd like to play a big role in being able to get some of these gas and diesel burners off the streets, because yeah, it's kind of choking you when you're out there walking around.
Yeah,
So
I think
I
I think
actually am gonna have to go here because it's midnight in Ohio and I have an early morning, and so I know you have a lot more to say. So definitely we'll have to revisit the subject, and hopefully we can have some sort of expert or somebody that's actually involved with the technology join us and talk more about it. So do you have any closing thoughts about these charging stations?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to mention that the fact that Han Energy and Tesla, it should be mentioned that the Tesla Motors vehicle is actually getting twice the mileage of everybody else, and that in alone is like amazing. And so when we learned recently, I think it was over the past 4 weeks, that Tesla announced that they're making all their patents public domain. That's giving all these other automotive manufacturers the right to copy the Tesla battery design so they can get that same mileage that Tesla's getting. It's mind-blowing mileage. And I still can't wrap my head around how they're getting so far, so many miles with their powertrain and with their battery. And it's really great to see that a company has got the balls to go out there and say, "Here you go, everybody. Why don't you hop on board and let's get this ball really rolling." I think that's highly commendable. I've never heard of anything happening in business quite similar to that. And so, yeah, and it's going to happen. The change is happening right now, and it's amazing that we're in the business, we're in the energy business, and we get to see the change firsthand in the province that in Canada produces the most amount of oil. We get to see this at the same time. So it's almost like, yeah, it's like being in the front row at a hockey game, right on the blue line. You don't want to be on the center line.
Yeah, well, for sure. I always am making this comment that it is the most fascinating time in all of human history to be alive and to be witnessing these major changes. And things are moving faster than ever, and the technology is uh, just so lightning speed now that it's unpredictable where the future will lead. So with that, I think we'll close this off, and I just want to say thank you to everybody out there watching, and thank you to Brian for trying to join us. I'm not sure what's going on his end.
Hi, Brian, if you're listening.
And so I have to go off to bed, so I will be up bright and early in the morning to do some more work with horses. So go out there and have a great night, everybody, and or morning or day or wherever you are in the world, depending what time zone you're on. I hope you make the best of the moment, and if I don't see you in the future, I will see you in the pasture. And I just want everybody out there to know that I am a firm believer that in this life, anybody can be, do, and have anything they want, or we can have everything we want. And I'm choosing everything, and I hope you will too, because you can. So have a good one. Bye. Good night.
Bye.